We think people are the most important thing a city can have and the most important asset that a city can develop. So here I am looking at some of the best assets in the city, and you guys are the reason that we're starting this program. We have a program at CreateHere that's been in effect for about 18 to 24 months. That program is called CreateHere, and it's a fellowship program. That program was designed to retain some of what we feel like is the best talent in the city. We have been lucky enough to have about 60 different fellows through our program in the last 18 to 24 months. Folks work for about 3 to 6 months, complete projects, autonomously manage them, take them from A to Z, network with community leaders and folks on the grassroots level, and learn about their community in ways that they can be a part of it in not just superficial manners, but in things that really make a difference. We thought 60 was really good, and we started thinking about it and thought that maybe 60 wasn't enough, and that there were a lot of folks having internships across the city who needed to plug into Chattanooga in fresh ways, in meaningful ways, and who needed to connect to each other. So what we see here in the audience today is folks from TVA, from Blue Cross, from nonprofit organizations, from law firms, and we think you all have something in common. And we think everybody in this room has a desire to see something come out of Chattanooga that's going to benefit them, and then figure out ways that you can plug in here and be an asset to your community. So PlugdIn is a citywide residency program. It's not discipline specific, because we know you're getting that where you work. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about what it is that makes a place home. And we've got some people here who we're very excited to have, and we feel like they've done a really good job of making Chattanooga home. So we're going to let them do some brief introductions, and we're going to launch into some questions. We want to encourage you to open your orange book that you have in front of you and take notes. That's yours to take home with you today. And we also want to tell you that if you find a bookmark, is it a bookmark? A little piece of paper. If you find a little piece of paper inside your orange notebook that says Made in Chattanooga, you will want to hang on to that until the end of the program, because it has some meaning and there's a little door prize attached to it. So without much further ado, I'm going to ask the folks on our panel and the folks sitting next to me to just do, these are fellows here, so we'll start with these guys. Do a quick bio. Where's your hometown? Where do you work now? It's clear. And what college you went to?
Hi, my name is Elena Goulas, born and raised in Chattanooga, and I went to East Tennessee State with marketing and communications and environmental science, and then I came back and I work at CreateHere.
My name is Chris Nystrom. I grew up in Chesapeake, Virginia for most of my life, and came to go to Covenant College, graduated in May, and now I work at CreateHere.
I'm Mark Song, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved here 8 years ago and went to Georgia Tech, finished Georgia State in marketing, and I have my own marketing design firm.
I'm Monica Mayfield. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I went to UTC and decided to stay here. And I work in Ford and Beer's Brewery, restaurant brewery, and operations.
I'm Stephen Culp. I was born in Birmingham. I lived here as a kid, in between, and lived a lot of different places. Went to Chapel Hill undergrad, a couple of years in Peace Corps, and went to law school out in California, and came back here about 9 years ago. Worked for Smart Furniture.
I'm Karen Lawanho, and I was born and raised in Tillsonburg, Ontario, Canada. And I went to school in Chicago, the University of Illinois, studied graphic design. And I'm the director of special accounts and the creative director for Smart Furniture. I've been here for 4 years.
I'm Preston Roberts, and I'm originally from Knoxville. Went to UT Knoxville, graduated in 2004, and lived in Chattanooga for about a year now. And I'm the project coordinator for the Take Root project, which is a downtown urban forestry project.
My name is Anj McLean. I grew up in Memphis. Moved here to go to UT Chattanooga. Spent some time in Atlanta and moved back. Been here since 2001, and I work at Green Spaces.
And before we start to dive into these questions, I want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable to ask questions as well. We're going to have a specific time for that at the end. But along the way, if there's something that you feel like you don't want them to get past without asking a more deep question about it or something that takes you another direction, please feel free to do that. But we're going to start out by a question that's asking you what other cities you've lived in and what, in your mind, what kind of advantages does Chattanooga have as a city? And I'm not going to point to anybody in particular, so y'all have to just self-manage a little bit.
Well, I live in Chicago. I first lived in Tillsonburg, that's where I was born and raised, and that's only 15,000, so moving to Chicago was a big change for me. But the reason I moved to Chicago was because I got a Tony scholarship and just wanted to try a bigger city. I think that Chattanooga is an amazing city. After living in Chicago, I thought I wanted to live in a big city, but after seeing Chattanooga, which it's a long story, but I kind of ended up here randomly. Didn't know anybody, not a single person. Didn't know anything about the city, but I just saw a lot of potential, and it was the best thing I've ever done. So I think that the city is really innovative and has great people. It also brings people here, so I just think overall I've just had the best experience, and I want to stay here.
Anybody else?
I guess my experience is kind of the opposite of Karen's. I came from a big city, growing up in a big city, and so the idea of moving to a small city was appealing to me, or a smaller city. And it just seemed a lot more manageable than Memphis. There was so much going on in Memphis, but in Chattanooga I felt like I had a better grasp of everything that was going on, not just one small part.
Yeah, again, born and raised in Atlanta, I used to say that I loved Atlanta. I mean, absolutely would never leave, and I loved the character of Atlanta, and it was a big global hub, but still there were a lot of yes ma'ams and a lot of that Southern culture. But like right around '96 with the Olympics, and then just Atlanta got too big in my opinion, and there were too many people I sense that just didn't care about the community. I think that caring matters a lot where you live and where you work. And, it's like, well, gosh, I've lived in Atlanta all my life, and I could have lived anywhere, but I wanted to stay in the South. It's an hour and a half from Atlanta, and Chattanooga. You've heard me say this that it just reminds me of Atlanta when Atlanta was smaller and a better place. So I see a lot of same growth potential in Chattanooga in terms of especially the creative environment. But again, it's a very manageable thing, a very manageable environment.
Mark's onto something, I think, with the element of caring about a place. I've lived in a lot of different places. I'll just rattle off a few in case you've lived in some of these places. But Birmingham, Jacksonville, Florida, New York City, far away in Peace Corps, San Francisco, Boulder, Colorado, a ton of different places that are highly stimulating in their very different ways. But no place that I actually care about as much as Chattanooga. And the name of this program is pretty appropriate because one of the greatest elements of this city, among many great elements, is the ability for you to plug in, the ability for you to access just about anything you want. And if you haven't lived a lot of other places, I'll just tell you that is unique. This is a town that is very much Goldilocks size, and what you want to do, you can do it. You just got to try, and the door will be open. So that's one reason I've enjoyed coming back here, and we'll stay.
Let me ask a question that sort of bounces off that a little bit. How do relationships and building networks in the community factor into the success that you've found here, and then how is that maybe more manageable here than somewhere else because of the size? Is it easier to meet people here than it is other places? Is it difficult? What makes it easier?
Yeah, I think that this I may be repeating what Clergan said to a certain degree, but I think that because